फीवर 94.3 पर मी आई आरजे मीनल एंड एज यू नो हर सैटरडे को 9 और 11 के बीच में सुबह सुबह हम बातें करते हैं अबाउट पेट्स ऑन दिस ब्यूटीफुल शो दैट्स कॉल्ड आर्यन्स वर्ल्ड स्कूल प्रेजेंट्स Sakar Petopia powered by Sakar Media. And as you know, we always talk to some very influential, some experts, and of course also to people that contribute to the world of pets. Today in fact we have with us very popular dog boarding school जिसका नाम है Snout Scout, the dog family की founder Priyanka Patki. Hi Priyanka.
Hi Meenal.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
So nice to have you. So Snout Scout मेरे लिए भी काफ़ी स्पेशल है क्योंकि हमारा फैमिली डॉग भी हम उन्हें यहाँ पे रखते हैं प्रियंका के पास. So I know for a fact कि this place is amazing. पर ज़रा बताओ, you know, when did you start and how old is Snout Scouts?
So Snout Scout, the dog family is say about 7 years old.
Okay.
I've been working in the dog industry for almost 17 years now.
Wow.
So since the time I was a college kid, I used to work with NGOs and
Okay.
I used to work with different companies, clinics, alongside a lot of vets.
Okay.
And then 7 years ago when I met my husband, that's when we started this on our own, Snout
क्या
Scout, the dog
बात है.
family.
And this is in Pimpli Saudagar,
Pimpli
right?
Nilak, yeah.
Pimpli Nilak.
Yes.
Okay. तो जरा बताओ your journey. You said 17 years ago.
Yes.
What did you start with?
So initially I started working in animal welfare.
Okay.
So that is when I used to work with rescuing of stray dogs and
Okay.
a lot of awareness programs
Right.
and all of that.
Right.
Then we moved to handling a pet management company wherein I was taking care of their pet shop, of grooming, of
Okay.
their boarding facility back then. And
Okay.
that's when I started training. So I
Okay.
started learning about dog training. And then I realized that is the thing I love the most.
Right.
So then that is where I got more and more serious. I started learning from different trainers
Right.
all around the world. And yeah, here we are.
क्या बात है. This is amazing. Generally when you're you know taking training in anything to do with pets except for vet, I think
Correct.
everything else is slightly disorganized, है ना?
Correct.
I'm not sure if I know of any academies that give graduation or diploma programs in training
Correct.
or grooming. So the whole sort of imbibing of education or knowledge is
Correct.
very more from experience than from
Correct.
gaining some kind of theoretical knowledge, so to speak.
Correct.
तो जितना ज़्यादा experience कहते हैं उतना ज़्यादा you know knowledgeable you are,
Correct.
because I mean every dog is different.
Correct.
तो ज़रा अपने experiences के बारे में बताइए. What's been your most challenging case dog ever?
Oh, the most challenging case. Okay, so there was one indie dog who had once come to us.
हाँ.
And as a puppy, I saw him when he came for boarding.
Yeah.
And he was happily, you know, running around. So
Yeah.
would appear to be very alright.
Right.
But there were few things that we noticed that, you know, I felt ki nahi yaar, you know, we need to start doing some obedience training on this dog.
Correct.
Because I think, you know, you catch the early signs.
Yeah.
But at that point of time, we did not. And after, sadly, I mean, we surprised, but in a few months, years, she started calling and he got severely aggressive. He had attacked the kids in the house.
Bapre.
So it was a very serious case. But then the good news again was with all the efforts put in by the owners, you know, I mean, they just followed through everything.
Yeah.
We changed him around entirely to a point where after a few, I think it took us some time,
Yeah.
2-3 years.
Oh.
But they were like, the kids and the dog were together lying around, you know, on the same bed, and it was great. Like, you know, we
Oh,
just could
amazing.
turn this around entirely.
Superb.
So
Superb.
training is, like I said, one is solving issues,
Yeah.
but the other thing is also it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So the more and more you know how to connect with your dog right from the time they're pups, and how do you raise them, how do you
Correct.
work with them,
Yeah.
that is what is going to define, you know, what
Correct.
happens in the future.
Correct. These days there are a lot of couples, a lot of adults who are who think that शायद उनका अकेलापन एक पेट दूर कर सकता है, which is I think to a certain point great.
Yeah.
You know, looking for companionship in animals is I
Correct.
think one of the most beautiful things ever.
Yes.
But these are people who have never had experience with pets.
Correct.
They've never grown up with pets, you know. But
Correct.
suddenly now we see more and more of these adults trying to make this decision of getting a pet.
Correct.
What would you say are the a few things that they should be doing to bond with their pet?
Very good question, and one of the main things that we work on as a foundational
Right.
training when
Yeah.
you're working with a pet. So to bond, one thing you have to play with your dogs.
Right.
Okay, you have to play, like make time and play.
आणि प्ले म्हणजे असं फक्त कडलिंग आणि स्नगलिंग नाहीये.
Play, like actively play.
Throw, fetch,
Yeah.
everything.
Go
Correct.
for a run,
Yeah.
explore. See, even when we say walk, you know, there is a lot of misunderstanding around walks. Like
Right.
it's not an A to B walk every day. Is not spending time with your dog.
Correct. And
Okay,
it's also
okay.
not just to poop pee, त्यांचं झालं म्हणजे घेऊन जा घरी.
Nahi. So please go to new places,
Right.
like play, go get rough, you know, like really play with your dogs. That is what dogs want.
Right.
See, we as owners, as humans, we want a lot of things. आपल्या
Right.
डॉगने हे करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए, असं ऐकलं पाहिजे, असं केलं पाहिजे. पण कुत्र्याला काय हवंय ह्याचा विचार नाही करत.
बरोबर.
कुत्र्याला एकच हवंय, खेळायचंय.
बरोबर.
कुत्र्याला फक्त खेळायचंय.
बरोबर.
So if you can just do that, I think when your question of bonding, I think that is the only thing you want to do. To bond, it is play. That's the main thing that you want to focus
Correct,
on.
correct, absolutely. And I think I am so happy you said rough play, because a lot of pet parents initially, when they do some sort of a rough housing thing, they start biting. आणि त्यांना असं वाटतं की ते त्यांना आवडत नाहीये. So can you elaborate a little bit more about how, when, what are the signs?
Correct. So now that again, right, puppy biting, it's a very natural thing because that is how dogs are going to communicate. Like
Correct.
we have hands, they
Yeah.
don't have hands. Their mouth is their hand.
Correct.
Okay, so they are going to communicate with that. Of course, does it hurt for a new pet parent? Yes.
Yeah.
But there is nothing wrong in it.
Correct.
Okay, from the dog's perspective. Now, this is something you do if you are that kind of a person. So, for example, even me, I am not so much of a dog constantly putting their teeth on me, especially puppies, because
Right.
it hurts.
Right.
Okay, no, the only reason is it hurts. I know that they are not really getting aggressive.
Yeah.
Aggression is very different. Rather, aggression असं दिसतच नाही.
बरोबर.
ओके whereas my husband on the other hand तो खूप रफ खेळतो. म्हणजे तो पण कुत्र्याला चावतो आणि कुत्रा त्याला चावतो. म्हणजे it is you don't want to watch that.
Right,
Okay, that's a
right.
different story. That's why the dogs love him.
हा.
Like that's why
Yeah.
there was this meme मध्ये if you knew की you know कुत्र्याला मध्ये थांबवा आणि you go, the wife goes on one side, the husband goes on the other side,
Correct,
and call
correct.
and see where the
Yes,
dog goes.
yes.
I refuse to do it because मला माहिती everyone will run to him because तो खूप रफ खेळतो.
बरोबर.
There's nothing wrong in it, but
Yeah.
like you said, how does a new pet parent know this? So
Correct.
the new pet parent, I would suggest mug avoid kara till you hire a professional to tell you the body language signs
Yeah.
and everything. Because body language is not just nipping, you have to check everything. कान कुठे आहे, तेल कशी आहे, overall stiffness कसं आहे,
बरोबर.
डोळे कसे दिसत आहेत. ते सगळ्याचे signs is if a dog is getting aggressive. If a
Right.
dog's body language is very soft and the ears are looking all happy, then it's not aggression. So
Right.
aggression is way more complicated than a puppy nipping.
Right.
Puppy nipping is just a puppy communicating. It's
Correct.
not a big deal. Really.
Absolutely.
And you should not correct it also.
Right.
The
right.
funniest part which I say, which लोकांना
Even-
पटत
no,
नाही.
no.
नाही करायचं, नाही करायचं. You ruin your bond with your puppies.
Correct.
You ruin it.
Correct, correct. So you've been running a boarding for almost 7 years now.
Yes.
Tell me, you know, of course you're in Pimple Nilak, but for people who are far, far away and are looking for dog boarding schools, what are the signs that this boarding school is a green flag for us? Like we can keep our pet there.
Correct. So one thing when you enter, you know, first you're going to go for a visit, of
Yeah.
course. If it's smelling a lot of,
Right.
you know, dog poop and pee or something, I
Yeah.
think I would not want to go there personally. So
Right.
it has to smell still pleasant. You
Yeah.
know, that is one compliment touchwood we've always got when people
Correct.
come over, is that lag nahi raha hai ki itne dogs hai.
Correct.
You know, like if there are so many dogs. So one is that. Two, you want to also see if the owner's dogs are visiting there often, you
Yeah.
know, because that is also a big sign. Like we ourselves, we keep our own dogs also, so that
Right.
is also one thing that,
Yeah.
you know, of course we trust what is happening there.
Correct.
That is one thing. Then you also want, you know, your daily routine, काय होणार आहे, काय होतंय. Video updates is one thing, but again it's gone, you know, it's a joke because when I started 10-15 years ago, we used to send no video updates.
Right.
Okay? Because people used to trust us की okay ठीक आहे येत आहेत आणि they have done enough trial stays, everything, you know,
Correct.
सगळं
Correct.
झालंय.
Correct.
पण आजकाल ते व्हिडिओ अपडेट्स म्हणजे खूप पाठवायला लागतात, which is
हो.
also a problem. But
Yeah.
I think what we would personally suggest, at least you want like probably one update a day.
Correct. Correct.
But again, I think this is all very relationship based. Like
Correct.
for a lot of my training clients, you'll be surprised, I send them updates sometimes once in a week also, and they're
Oh.
all right with it
Okay.
because they know that we are doing the right thing.
Correct,
So
correct,
I think
correct.
it's all finally going to be very trust based. Yes, there are
Correct.
lots of protocols which are followed. There are lots of form fillings, protocols, everything. But I think the first thing what I would recommend for pet parents is visit, see
Yeah.
what is the feel you get,
Right.
talk to the people,
Right.
check how the dogs are kept, whether in kennels, free. Like again, our opinion is always let them be in their own safe space.
Right.
Because kennel मध्ये ठेवाल, they remain safe, they
Yeah.
remain free from diseases
Right.
वगैरे. प्ले टाइम मध्ये बाहेर येऊ शकतात, पण
Correct.
पूर्ण वेळ दंगामध्ये घरी पण नाही राहत ना. You want to
Correct.
stick to the routine what the dog follows at home.
Right.
That's the main key. नाहीतर मग इथे येऊन गेले मग घरी मग परत तो
Correct.
त्रास नको.
But is there like an inspection body, like generally for restaurants or even food products, there's like that FSSAI and
Correct,
all of
correct.
that. But dog boarding school sati, are there people that come from PMC to do like a check once
Not
in a while?
really. They come from PMC for mainly the same hygiene level. की
हा.
म्हणजे कुठे पाणी साठलं नाहीये ना.
Okay.
म्हणजे असं म्हणजे so hygiene level is something you want
But
to
there's no
maintain.
certification body for a boarding school,
Nothing
na
at the
yet.
moment.
Okay.
Nothing at the moment.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We were actually trying to make such guidelines
Yeah,
in between. So we
yeah.
were working alongside
Absolutely.
people who we want to
Correct,
make it. So
correct.
hopefully, yeah, soon these are all things that we would
Absolutely.
like it. Yeah.
I think that would be a great sort of क्या बोलते हैं criteria to go
Yes.
by also
Absolutely.
while looking on dog hostels or dog boardings.
And
looking for
especially because since COVID, there are lots of new places like every gully madhe, like when
Yeah.
we started to
Yeah.
now, it's become
Absolutely.
and they're not really experts in dog behavior, right? Like
Yeah.
we both have learned dog training and behavior, so
Correct.
kutre samajhta hai. We are not
Barabar.
doing it for business reasons.
Yeah.
So,
And being
yeah.
dog friendly and being like a professional dog trainer are two different things, guys.
Yeah.
Please.
So that's the thing. Also
Right.
study about dog behavior. So
Yeah.
we always say, so I myself also I run courses for dog boarding also for dog training.
Oh.
So we teach ki boarding पण चालू करायचं तर understand dog behavior. It's
बरोबर.
not just the boarding angle. You have
Yeah.
to understand the dog. Like
Yeah.
what is it that the dog wants or what is
Absolutely.
the dog. Once you do that, I think that's a green flag. Kick
Yeah,
ahead and board
yeah,
there.
absolutely. So you just mentioned to me that when the dog comes to you for training, you send them updates once in a week. म्हणजे dogs राहतात का तुझ्याकडे?
we can do
Training
board
साठी
and
पण?
train also.
Oh yeah,
So
okay.
training साठी now this is also training साठी we have variety of options. Like
Okay.
when you opt for dog training, we can either work alongside a client. So
Okay.
त्यांच्याबरोबरच weekly sessions
Right,
वगैरे. So
right.
clients learn how to handle.
Yeah.
We also do online because people out of Pune, like even out of India for that matter, I take
Dog
up
training
clients.
online?
Yes.
Really?
So it's
Okay.
not about training you, right? Like
Right.
eventually you are going to be with your dog.
Yeah.
Neither you hear this common thing of trainer का सुन रहा है मेरा नहीं सुन रहा है.
Correct.
ये क्यों होता है? Because
Correct.
you have to spend that
Yeah.
time. But now in a scenario where you don't have the time, you've
Yeah.
got a dog, but unfortunately the next 2 months you're going to be tied up. You have
Yeah.
a work commitment or घरामध्ये health issue आला, असं काहीतरी झालंय.
Yeah.
But your dog is young and you want to quickly put the foundation work, then you have boarding as an option. So we have day school, boarding school. So day school is where the pups stay with us morning to evening.
Right.
Boarding school is overnight.
Yeah.
In certain cases this works better
Yeah.
because like say socializing aspects and everything where owners ला नाही जमत आहे. See, किती पण आपण सांगितलं पण if they have genuine what do you say issues why they cannot do it, maybe
Yeah.
work commitment असतं, कोणाचं
Yeah.
health issue असतं, that's where we come into the picture and we do more work.
Yeah.
So तिथे your day school boarding school works,
Correct.
but if they have time then even
Yeah.
online and one-on-one sessions work. So we
Yeah.
do all sorts of obviously training
Lovely.
programs. Yes.
So when you say day school, I'm assuming these are from like couples who both work and they
Absolutely.
leave their dogs with
Absolutely.
you. Do you think that's the right, like, I mean, they're not spending, like, I can understand when you're sending your kid to school, but with dogs, they're very protective of their environment and the people they're with. How does this work with a dog? Like when you drop him off at school, like a boarding school,
Yeah.
and then pick him up in the evening? Is that the right way of parenting? Is this how it's supposed to be? Can we not train our dog to be at home? Tell me
So
more.
like I said, both the things have their pros and cons.
Okay.
With this, why we would suggest that in certain cases is one, जर ते anyway होणार नसेल, like we face different kinds of clients. Like there are
बरोबर.
certain kinds of clients who tell me the last 6 months have been so hectic, my dog has not gone out for a walk. मग मी
What?
म्हणते मग त्याच्यापेक्षा डे स्कूलला आलेला बरं आहे ना.
बरोबर.
आणि then they are better off आणि त्यांना जमतं, like
Yeah.
on the way to work they drop, on the way back they pick him up.
Right.
It's a great way of bonding for a dog because they go out with their owner every day and the owner comes back to pick me up.
Yeah.
So from the dog's perspective they see a nice picture.
Yeah.
And the dog also gets work. Obviously where you're doing it is a big picture
Yeah.
question. So because they're doing it here, through the day I'm playing with them, we are working, and then that helps.
Right.
Yes, in certain scenarios like you said, ki is it always needed? Maybe not. For specialized training, again, I would say it is needed, because sometimes a lot gets done during the day which cannot get done at home. So I think it's a very case dependent thing. Will day school work? Yes, it works. In certain cases it does. Amazing.
Yeah.
In absolute anxious dogs, maybe not.
Okay.
With very anxious dogs, you want to really space it out. तुम्ही रोज सोडलं तर it gets worse.
Correct.
So भरपूर लोकांना वाटतं सेपरेशन एन्झायटी, मग मी रोज सोडतो म्हणजे सवय होईल. नाही, ते उलट होतं.
Oh.
The phobia builds up.
Yeah.
Like if I don't like something, say for example I don't like a lizard, and तू रोज माझ्या तोंडामध्ये ठेवली lizard saying की तुला सवय होईल, नाही.
बरोबर.
मला माझी भीती पण वाढेल and my trust in you will go.
Right.
Because why are you doing this to me every day?
Correct. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So in running a boarding school, I'm sure along with the pets, you're also dealing with a lot of parent personalities.
Yes.
I feel like pets, maybe you'll find two dogs that are similar to each other. With pet parents, I don't think you will ever. What's been one of the most absurd requests that you ever got with regards to pets?
Oh my god. Oh god. Pet parents, we hear like really crazy stories.
Right.
There are like the requests can be amazing. I had once for boarding someone telling me, नाही त्याला घरी मी जेवण भरवते, पण भरवते is not the only thing. Okay, hand feeding, okay, first for a trainer even that is like, my god, why? Okay, सवय लावा. Okay, but ठीक आहे, चल तिथपर्यंत I'm still okay, I'm following and I'm like, okay, I will feed. The next request was, पण त्याला एक प्रत्येक घासाला म्हणायचं कावळा येऊन तुझं जेवण खाईल आणि मग त्याला द्यायचं. आणि I was like, म्हणजे but then you have to do it because the dog is boarding and you have to do it.
But
so,
did the dog really respond to that?
Yes, because
yeah?
it's conditioning. हो, कुत्रे शिकतात. What you teach, it's सवय ना, it's habit.
Okay,
Training
Karan,
is all
I
about
always
habit.
feel like, so my husband and I also like sometimes keep our friends' dogs, and they have these requests ki to tasach karto and asach karto, but with us they're very different.
Yeah.
So I always ask the boarding person also ki, is the dog like that with you, or
So it like I said, see if it's a habit, like if
Right.
someone like now this कावळा उड आणि मग तो येणार आहे आणि तू पटकन खा, is a dog who's been doing this for 5 years, they are doing
बापरे.
this.
Yeah.
So it's association.
Right.
The dog is really like ते इतकं डोक्यात बसलं की याच्या असं बोलल्यानंतरच खायचं असतं.
बरोबर.
Also, but the second thing with food is also sometimes if you're not feeding them, say for example what a dog needs is a high
Right.
protein diet, जर ते घरी नसेल होत मग तिकडे येऊन करायची गरज नसते, because the minute you give them a high yummy diet they're like, oh wow,
Correct.
हे नकोय,
Correct,
I'll eat
correct,
it fast.
correct.
So yeah, like your question of why maybe it's different at the kennel is because we do like a species appropriate diet or something, then it works for the dog.
Correct.
But in certain cases we cannot do it. Like
Yeah.
the request is that nahi, you want to feed
Absolutely.
only this. But then sometimes we have to oblige.
I mean, you have so many dogs. There's no way to be able to like give this kind of attention to somebody.
So,
है ना?
yeah, with some cases we have
Yeah.
to. Like again, if it's a training, if it's a dog who's come for dog training, I would
Yeah.
obviously suggest ki let's not do this.
Correct.
I'll work with your dog to make sure की सवय होतीये
बरोबर.
आणि खायला लागेल.
बरोबर.
But when it's a pure boarding dog and they don't want to train,
Correct.
it's best to oblige, because keeping both of the owner and the dog less stressed is our aim. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we are never working with only a dog.
Correct.
It's a unit.
Yeah. So, since we're talking about food and feeding the dog, let's talk a little bit about dog nutrition also. What according to you is like a healthy diet? Like how many times in a day should the pet parent feed their dog? Because I've heard so many different stories from so many different people की आम्ही फक्त एकदाच भरवतो दिवसातून, तो एकदाच खातो. After he's 3, then we will start making the food lesser. Is that what are all these myths, and please tell me what's the right way?
Yeah, so again with food, I'm not like a certified nutritionist, I'm
Right.
a certified trainer, so
Yeah.
I should not talk too much in detail about
Yeah.
this. But again, I would at
Just
least
from
tell
your
you from our
experience
experience
and
and
your
what we do with
observation.
our dogs.
Yeah.
Like our dogs, what are they doing? Like
Correct.
if you meet them, you will see, अरे यार fit दिसतायत,
बरोबर.
त्यांचे muscles एवढे छान का दिसतायत. Why
हो.
is that? I can tell you from that
Yeah.
obviously experience. Is one, high protein.
Okay.
So you want to, if preferably they need a non-vegetarian, like I
Right.
would say.
Yeah.
There are lots of requests these days for a veg diet, even a vegan diet. So
बापरे,
yeah,
okay.
but jitka possible you
Yeah.
want to give them chicken, whichever protein works, whether it's chicken, fish,
Correct.
mutton, whatever works for your dog, but a
Right.
protein. and you want to give carbs जे काय असेल ते थोडं limited. So
Right.
bhakri, rice, gluten most often allergy आहे, so we
बरोबर.
avoid roti. But there
Yeah.
is no standard thing. I have seen certain dogs on roti also who are okay.
Right.
But you don't want to do the age-old doodh pori wala thing, okay?
बरोबर.
So now this is a
Although that was very convenient.
it was, and this is a conflict. You won't believe it. Forget anyone else. With my own father, I have this. He's like, हे
Oh.
तुमचं काय नवीन आहे, आमच्या काळात होते आणि आम्ही
Oh,
पाळले.
बरोबर
आणि
बरोबर.
आमचे कुत्रे तर दूध पोळी खाऊन राहायचे आणि आम्ही लाईक ओके आता द ओनली थिंग आय हॅव टू से टू मिस तुम्ही रोज बाहेर जाऊन बघत नव्हते पोटी काय
बरोबर.
बॅक देन कुत्रेवर अंगणात आहेत बाहेर आहेत तर
Yes.
त्यांचं जात आहे
बरोबर.
if you actually went and saw they are also poop and everything, I'm sure there was a problem.
Yeah.
It's just that no one noticed.
Correct.
But yeah, so avoid doing your masala and everything. Like
Yeah.
apna sweets, masala. I know people who give all of that also. Please don't. Because
Yeah.
diabetes and all that is also common in dogs
Yes.
these days. We've boarded dogs who are on insulin shots and everything. So it's not fun. So please,
Yeah.
garaz nahi hai. Put them on
Barabar.
easy stuff. High protein and rice or bhakri is convenient.
Correct.
And also dog food.
Yeah.
So this is the fresh food angle. Dog food is something that like a pedigree hunt, that type.
Yeah.
Pedigree, Royal Canin. Now the brands we generally do are different brands.
Correct.
So there are Dr. Clouder म्हणून एक
Packet
आलंय.
foods,
हाँ,
basically.
packaged food,
Yeah.
Diosera म्हणून आलंय. So these are all good brands
Yeah.
that you should ideally give them
Right.
today. But a good balanced dog food is what
Correct.
is a one-time meal. So even with our own dogs, what we do is one time we do a dog food and dry food, and one time we do a fresh food.
Correct.
Because even when we are traveling वगैरे, it becomes convenient.
त्यांना
Every
पण
time
सवय
कोण
व्हायला
cook
पाहिजे
करणार आहे.
actually.
हाँ.
Yeah.
And how can you
Absolutely.
cook? Like we basically for competitions वगैरे, because we compete with our dogs and everything.
Right.
In dog training, sports
Oh.
म्हण वगैरे. So
बरोबर.
तिथे you can't, when you're traveling 10 hours, we cannot make fresh food.
Correct.
So then dry food is our go-to. And dry
Absolutely.
food is superbly balanced. So
Yeah.
the companies have done all the hard work. We have
Right.
to just feed
Right.
them. So yeah.
Coming back to your expertise of training, what's the right age for training?
Great.
Like when does the pet parent say की आता मोठं झालं आता ट्रेन करूया? I know a lot of pet parents who said खूप लहान आहे ग आता कुठे ट्रेनिंग करायचं?
Great question.
Yeah, when does one start?
So you start the day you get your pup home.
Oh.
Yeah. Or rather, in my opinion, you start even before you get your pup home.
Right.
It's like when you're planning a child, right? You want to know what you want, when you want, you know,
Correct.
everything.
Correct.
So we also do something called as pre-pet consultation, in which I help people to even choose the right breed and dog and everything. भरपूर वेळा after my pre-pet, people don't get a dog. Because I show them, I show them the real picture की असं असं असतं to take care of a
बरोबर.
dog. नको आम्ही येऊन तुझ्या कुत्र्याशी खेळतो.
बरोबर.
Okay, done. So pre-pet is that. So
Yeah.
that's your first step. Then
Correct.
when you get, before you get a puppy also, what all do you need? Like, you know, we talk about crate training.
Yeah.
So that is like creating a space for your dog.
Correct.
Then what are the kind of toys? What is the food? So हे सगळं pre झालं.
Right.
Then when you get your puppy home, the first day is when your toilet training starts. See,
Right.
most people don't do all this. And that's why there are problems. So when
कारण ते म्हणतात ना की घरी आणल्यावरती 40 दिवस त्यांना बाहेर घेऊन नाही जायचं आणि हे सगळं
हाँ, so
so
ते
कसं
सगळं नसतं
करणार वगैरे.
करायचं. So you start immediately.
Right.
The toilet training starts immediately. बाहेर
Right.
पण कसं घेऊन जायचं? See, this entire myth of 4 महिन्यापर्यंत नका घेऊन जाऊ.
बरोबर.
You miss out on a socializing window.
Right.
But how to do it? Now you have to do it in a smart way. Like
Correct.
what we do, we take them in the car.
बरोबर.
So त्यांना exposure खूप मिळतं.
Yeah.
But they don't meet other dogs.
Correct.
See, the misconception is taking out म्हणजे let your dog to play with another dog. ते नाही
Right.
करायचं.
Right.
ते नाही करायचं till the vaccines are done.
Correct.
पण हवेमधनं if something is going to happen, it's going to happen even at home.
Yeah,
Like how much can
absolutely.
you protect?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a line where you have to,
Correct.
but you start training immediately. And like
Okay.
as we started with the play and the bonding,
Yeah.
that starts on day 1. Because the
Right.
day you get your pup home, if you start bonding immediately,
Correct.
so training starts on the first day. Like
Okay.
like I always say, training is not to solve problems. The reason why when you've heard stories of मोठे झाल्यानंतर येतात trainingला,
बरोबर.
because people misunderstand training as only to solve problems. Whereas we say
Right.
training is to create a good bond with your dog.
Yeah.
Like काय बोलायचं, कसं बोलायचं, and
बरोबर.
instead of just focusing on I want this from my dog.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what my dog wants from me. Now how do we communicate and get what both of us want?
Correct.
It's like any other relationship.
Yes.
I want this, you want this. Okay, how do we come to a point where we both get what we
Of
want?
course.
Maybe
Yeah.
somewhere I'll have to let go, you'll have to let go.
Right.
Same thing. Dog training is not anything more.
Right.
But you have to be able to come to a midpoint.
Right. So what's the simplest command that one should start with? Is it sit?
Recall,
Oh.
come. Yeah. So
Oh,
you should not
come.
start with sit.
Oh, you
actually.
should.
Sit is one of the late commands that we
Oh,
teach.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My own
Which
dog
ones are
did
the
not know.
first?
Come
Come.
to me when called.
yeah.
Because नंतर काय होतं ना, कुत्रे सगळं करतात, सीट स्टे वगैरे येतच नाही परत.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true. That is
people
true. Now
are
that I think of it, that's
struggling
true.
with the
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah.
The maximum all the cases जे even later on they come ना, अगं येतच नाही, लहानपणी येत नाही कारण काय गोंधळ करतो, मोठ्यापणी येत नाही कारण काय adolescence hit झाल्यानंतर a dog doesn't want to listen.
Correct.
तर हे का आणि recallचं main part again comes with relationship. If you have a bond with your dog, the dog will want to come to you.
Right.
So how do you create that again? So it keeps going back to the part ki start on day one. If you
Yeah.
start on day one, only then you'll know how to do this. And that's why the way I train personally, I do very few. I do a lot of less focus on commands.
Yeah.
If you want, I can teach you 20 commands.
Correct.
But more than commands, my focus is always understand the behavior.
Right.
Understand the behavior. Understand how to communicate.
Correct.
Right? Like even simple things I'll tell you. For example, कुत्र्याने कधी छान करून आला.
Right.
Good boy कसं म्हणायचं का good girl, how do you appreciate? It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like some people just say, okay, good.
Yeah.
हे असं टोन, okay, good boy. कुत्र्याला काय वाटेल त्याच्यामध्ये? Or you have to say, good boy, wow, that's
Yeah.
nice. You have to know how to change your tone.
Correct.
Right? Like
correct.
this is what you have to focus on.
Right.
Or on the contrary, if he does something wrong, नको करूस please. हे चुकीचं. That's not the tone there. Okay, there it has to be, it's enough.
Yeah.
Do not do this again.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have to again make it dramatic and yell and scream.
Correct.
It has to be assertive and firm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot about how do you use your tone in
Right.
dog training,
Right.
right? So, and again, all of this, again, I've been learning from a lot of
Yeah.
people, okay, right? Like now there is one of my teachers, her name is Mia Skogstad, okay,
Yeah.
she's from Finland, she's a world champion trainer. Like if you ever go and see Mati, like right from when she was young, she
Yeah.
has been competing in dog sports. So तिचे हे tones, म्हणजे मी जेवढ्या levelला I'll do these tones and
Yeah.
I'll show you, it's insane if you ever see how she
Oh,
modulates
wow.
her voice, you know.
Correct.
And that's why her dogs are like smitten by her ki अच्छा तू सांग आणि मी करतो.
बरोबर.
It's not
Oh.
just commands, it's your
Correct.
tone, it's your expression.
Yeah.
So that's how you want to learn.
Yeah.
She's coming by the way onto Pune next month, so
Oh.
it's great. Like we are also excited because
Okay.
we can learn from her in
Right.
November 22nd
Right.
to 24th. So people like her, there are many such trainers
Right.
now all over India. आजकाल ह्यांचे असे seminars होत असतात.
बरोबर.
So all pet parents can go ahead and learn ki
Yeah.
या basic गोष्टी, how do you connect with emotions, how do you
Correct.
communicate with the dog.
Yeah.
It's all about communication, eventually.
Absolutely,
It's
that
not
is true.
commands.
Yeah.
Commands is your next step. So for example, sit, जसं तू
Yeah.
म्हणली, sit can be said in 10 different languages, for example, okay? If say for example तुम्हाला मराठीमध्ये आता म्हणली बस इथे
हा.
आणि मला मला मराठी येतच नसेल
बरोबर.
आणि मी उभीच राहिले आणि तुम्हाला म्हणते अगं बस, मी उभीच राहिले, तुम्हाला 10 वेळा म्हणते बस. I don't understand your language.
Correct.
How will I
Correct.
do it?
Yeah.
So there is a way of teaching a person a language, and that is the problem in dog training is we assume कि अरे सिट तो easier करना चाहिए, पर
पण
उसको
डॉग्सला
पता ही
दोन
नहीं.
लँग्वेजेस शिकू शकतो.
खूप languages शिकू
Oh,
शकतो.
yeah?
I've trained dogs in different languages. My
Oh,
own dogs
the
have
same dog.
German commands, English
Really?
commands, Marathi commands. Yeah. My
But
own
for the
dogs.
same thing, म्हणजे sit, bus, बैठो असं.
Yes. So for example, माझ्या कुत्र्याचा out for drop for example.
हा.
सो त्यांचं जे मराठी मधलं सोड
हा.
असतं इज फॉर जेव्हा तो कचरा वगैरे उचलतो मी त्याला सोड म्हणते.
Oh.
ओके, म्हणजे सोड म्हणजे सोड, कचरा उचलतो
Right.
सोडायचं. बस,
Right.
देर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ का सोडायचं. ओके. Whereas aus, which means drop in
Ah.
German,
Yeah.
that is for his say for his play work and his bite work, wherein aus
Oh.
म्हणजे 1 मिनिट सोड तुला परत देते.
Oh.
सोडच बघायला आपल्याला सगळे ड्रॉपच वाटतात, बट
बरोबर.
एव्हरीथिंग हॅज अ स्लाइट चेंज इन डॉग
Oh,
ट्रेनिंग.
that's interesting. That's very interesting. क्या बात है, Priyanka. Really, such a fun chat I've had and so
Thank you.
insightful. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so
and,
much,
it's
Meena.
been a pleasure. And of course,
Same here.
like I keep saying, Fever FM पर ऐसे ही pets की बातें चलती रहेंगी on Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every morning on this beautiful show that's called Aryan's World School presents Sakar Petopia, powered by Sakar Media. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
An initiative by Sakar Media.